I walked 2 days into Scotland's last wilderness to reach Britain's most remote pub.
Just a random gate in the middle of nowhere. Do not try this at home, kids. Look at that. It's quite steep, this.
I chat about the area, its history, and some of the wildlife.
This is Cameron of Locheil's territory.
Loch Nevis means heaven.
It doesn't look like a traditional Scottish black house. Good morning. So today I've parked at Callop, which is about 1.5 miles from the Glenfinnan monument. And the plan is to start properly at the Glenfinnan monument and walk to Inverie, which is on Knoydart, a peninsula in Scotland, and it has the most remote pub in mainland Britain. Normally people travel to Knoydart on a boat from Meadail, a ferry, but since I went there as a kid, I've always wanted to try and walk there overland. It's quite a famous route and it's been on my bucket list for years, so I'm excited to do this and have a look around at all the interesting stuff. There's a little footbridge that reopened last year that should take me back over to the monument in a second. I wasn't expecting this so soon. I think I've gone the wrong way around here to the bridge.
The Glenfinnan monument marks the traditional site where the 1745 Jacobite rebellion began, led by Bonnie Prince Charlie.
It's not technically where he landed in Scotland, as he actually landed in Eriskay before that, but this is where he landed on the mainland and raised the standard and where the Jacobite army was first assembled. I have actually heard and read something interesting that the church just up the hill there's a stone where he actually raised the standard, and this is not quite fully accurate. Can you see that? The people on the hill there, they're waiting for the steam train that comes across the viaduct. So these are all the Harry Potter fans who are waiting for the train that was seen in the films. So I think we've officially begun. Thought I'd celebrate with a little can of brew. Morning. 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 It is bonkers to me that everyone just comes to see the Harry Potter train now rather than the monument. So today's plan is to go from the Glenfinnan monument to Sourlies, Bothy. I think that's how you pronounce it. Looks pretty interesting on the map. It looks like an abandoned settlement by the coast. And then day 2, I'll be walking from Sourlies, Bothy across the peninsula into Inverie, the town on Knoydart, where the ferry comes in, and to the pub, the Old Forge. So much for the rough bounds and Scotland's last wilderness. I'm still on a very smooth tarmac road. Oh my word. I feel like I'm in Nepal. Oh, I think that's a Bothy over there. I think that's the Corryhully Bothy. Woo. Well, it'd be rude not to have a little look around. I love a little Bothy tour. Smells like a fire recently. Pretty primitive. There's a wee book, as you'd expect, in a Bothy. A few little bits and bobs. Some sleeping platforms. I suppose you can get a fair amount of people in here, it's one thing. We'll keep going. I think the Bothys further on are going to be more special and more in the wild, which is what we're looking for. Well, we're officially off the tarmac now, so I guess I can finally say that I'm heading into the rough bounds now. Oh. Must be the last tree before we go above the tree line here. That's where we're heading, up and over into Glenfinnan. A wee puddock. Woohoo! Just a random gate in the middle of nowhere. Absolutely nothing either side. Oh look, there's the deer. Some hinds just up there looking at me. Not sure if there's a stag nearby. Oh, there he is. Well, we've got to go through the gate. Frog mania. So that valley there leads down to Glenfinnan, and to the right at the end of the valley there is Loch Arkaig. So as we cross down towards Loch Arkaig there, this is Cameron of Lochiel's territory in terms of clan territory. So he was one of the most important Jacobite supporters to Bonnie Prince Charlie. Look at that! I'm just eating my lunch and I just noticed the herd of deer are just above me in front of a waterfall. In case you hadn't gathered, this is quite a boggy affair. This is pretty much what we're travelling over the whole time. Not really proper path. Look at that. Look at that cool gnarled old tree. There's a lot of those rocks with the mosses and heather. They've probably been growing for centuries up there undisturbed. Oh. That's Loch Arkaig. How am I going to get across that one? Don't really want to take boots off. Do not try this at home, kids. Oh my word. So I've now crossed into Cameron of Lochiel's territory. This would have been his clan territory during the 1745 rebellion, and his support was vital to the Jacobite cause, as he was one of the most prominent Jacobites and could muster some of the most serious fighting clansmen in Scotland. So when he came over the Glen to meet Bonnie Prince Charlie, he would have come the way I've just come, through the Glen there, and met him at Glenfinnan where he raised the standard. Without him, the 1745 rebellion arguably wouldn't have even started. Look at these mosses. Wow. Dripping wet. So on the west coast here you do get temperate rainforests, but these are actually Sitka spruce, which is a forestry plantation, but just because of the air and the moisture here, they've grown like a rainforest with the mosses and lichens growing off them. Someone's left. Oh, I thought it was a seat, but it's a toilet. Lovely. I've just taken a little detour towards Loch Arkaig to see if I can get phone reception. But just further on, over the hill here on the map, there's the ruins of a 1745 barracks, a government barracks for redcoats. And this is the barracks 1745 that was on the map. It's tiny. It couldn't have been much more than a watch post. Presumably it was to keep an eye on the Camerons here after the 1745 rebellion, as they were one of the main participants. There's a couple of things about Loch Arkaig. So the Jacobite gold was actually rumoured to be buried on the shores somewhere, and there's still people out with metal detectors to this day. It was the gold given by the French to help fund the campaign. The other thing about Loch Arkaig is that at the other end, far end, that side, is Achnacarry, and that's the seat of the Camerons of Lochiel. And during World War II, it was actually used for commando training. So they would have done all of their training up here and then been sent into the various Allied campaigns in World War II. The other thing I'll just show you of the hill here is we've just got stags just grazing. I mean, I've sort of stopped filming so many deer now because they're just everywhere. This wood is endless.
To make slightly better time, I decided to jog, or tab as it's known in the army, the less interesting forested sections.
Oh, finally out of the wood. That's a massive stag eating the hay. Don't think the hay's for him, mind you. That's the Bothy down there. It's a little bit too out of the way for me and I'm falling behind a bit today. It's after 3 o'clock and I need to push on. I need to get to Sourlies Bothy, so I should probably crack on. See you later, mate. Still got a long way if I'm going to get to Sourlies Bothy tonight. Finally out of the forest. Goodbye. Heading towards the coast, but it still looks uphill. This is way worse than to be fair, I didn't look at the map in detail at this bit. Just a land of bogs and tussocks. Slow going. It's a cairn. I'm hoping that's the highest point.
This section was the hardest technically, and at times I was on my hands and knees on all fours clambering over the rocks.
I can see the sea. Somewhere down there by the coast is the Bothy. I think the path might be getting a touch easier as well. Look at that. This is sketchy. I think that's Finniskeg, those ruined settlements, a township. We're just on the perimeter now, almost on flat ground. The light is incredible. I forgot that light up here in Scotland is, the sunset is so much later. I'm still on my London timeline. Just seen an otter go into those reeds there. Such a distinct lolloping gait. Look at that, that is incredible. So serene. Flat as a pancake out there. I can smell that sea air, that salty, pungent smell. So nice. There's deer absolutely everywhere, look. Even more of them in front of the Bothy. That is incredible. Deer are just going up the hill. Just listen how quiet. I mean, except for that duck going mental. No signs of anyone else. Not seen another person since the Glenfinnan viaduct. All the potterers. The washing line. Just gonna sit down here for a minute. 22.32 miles. That doesn't sound like that much, but considering I was on hands and feet and sinking into peat bogs over my boots, that is way harder than it sounds. That was tough. Good morning. I'm just listening to these oyster catchers. They're swooping all over the bay here. Just enjoying the sunrise. So because I went pretty hard yesterday, I can afford to chill out a bit more this morning. I'm on my second cup of tea now. Also had a coffee. We've got a shorter walk today. There is one big beast at the start that's going to be a pure ascent, and then after that it should be a steady descent all the way to Inverie. Just before we leave, I'm going to give you a little tour while it's properly light. So these are the sleeping platforms. This is where I slept last night. Someone's been funny with the ram's goal. Sourlies Bothy. Let's just have a look at the Bothy book. 6th of February 2026, 3rd of March, 4th, 5th of March, 7th of March. Wow, it's quite a big gap between then and now. And they decided to leave a fiver. What is that about? Was it too much weight? I put my rubbish up here last night. I could see a mouse and hear it scuttling around when I first went to bed. So any kind of food or anything that would attract it, I tried to hang up on these hooks, and I had my bags up there as well. I take these ultralight shoes that are packable so I have something to dry when I take my wet boots off at camp. Even though it's blazing sunshine today, these gaiters are absolutely essential when crossing Knoydart. There's so much boggy ground, rough terrain. I'm a massive fan of this pump. It's so light. Look how small it is. It sits in my hand. It also doubles up as a light. It's a really nice luxury at the end of the day to pump up your air mat. And on top of that, it stops any mold forming in your air mat if you were to blow it in it yourself, and preserves the long-term lifespan. So this is Loch Nevis, which goes all the way round to Inverie, and on the other side of the peninsula is Loch Horn, and Loch Horn means hell in Gaelic, whereas Loch Nevis means heaven. And on a day like today, you can see what they're on about. That's where we're heading. That mountain on the left there's a pass running through. It's going to be a big ascent. So I'm just looking here, and there's a settlement over there, and there's this natural, well not natural, man-made dip here. And to me it looks like this is where they used to cut the peat. So they would have cut the peat for their fires, for fuel. There's more deer there, and there, and over there. Every 10 minutes I see deer around here. To me, It seems like their numbers are a bit out of control. I'm not sure who's managing the culling in Knoydart, but it seems way too high. I guess it's a very difficult terrain to actually catch up with them and keep a close tab on it. But compared to the Eastern Highlands, the Cairngorms we're more familiar with, they seem a bit out of control here, which is not good for their welfare and also for the land in terms of grazing. So do you see this settlement? This is another of these coastal settlements. So in general with the Highland Clearances, there was two stages. The first stage was where the people were moved to the coast, to places like this, and that was due to bringing livestock, particularly sheep, inland. And the second stage was, it was so hard to make a living in these places and people weren't used to it, that they then just emigrated altogether and left. Let's do a bit of exploring of these old buildings. Look at the stone masonry jamming all those little bits, and you can still see bits of earth, or I think maybe it has been reinforced with some cheap cement, some grout in there. It doesn't look like a traditional Scottish black house, but which you often see on the west coast here, which is more circular with the thatch roof, with the heather roof. It looks like a slightly more modern design. It's quite steep, this. I'm finally at the highest point, so that's where I've come from. And if you go up here, I can just see the way down to Inverie now, and I've just got phone reception. So it should be descending now. The area of land ahead of me marked a different clan territory, the MacDonalds of Glengarry, who were also Jacobite supporters and were descended from the powerful lords of the Isles. Wow. This road that I'm on compared to the previous path, it's impacted gravel. You can see over my shoulder. Oh my word, it feels nice. So although Knoydart functioned pretty much like an island, even though it's on the mainland, with access primarily by boat, there would have been people moving about on these passes. There would have been drovers and shepherds and people travelling between the communities on Knoydart. There is a population at Inverie, but it's much smaller than it would have been originally before the clearances. There are so many settlements and townships all along the Knoydart peninsula that are now abandoned. People would have been dotted out all over the place. There's also Sheelings, which I've not had a good opportunity to show you yet, which is the even more primitive shelters up in the hills, where the locals would have brought their livestock, originally cattle, then sheep, up to in the summer for pastures. If you look closely here, you can see a bird watcher who is looking for sea eagles. I actually met him in the pub later. That cross on the hill, that's the Lord Brocket Memorial. He was quite a controversial landowner in the 1930s and was also a Nazi sympathiser. And there it is. We made it.
It was surreal walking into Inverie from the wilderness. The pub was actually closed, so I came back later that evening once it opened. The pub is pretty much how I remembered it. It was full of characters, including hikers, bird watchers, and locals, and everyone was keen to share a story over a pint. They brew their own beer here too, the Seven Men of Knoydart, which I'd highly recommend. And if you tell the bar staff that you've actually walked to the pub overland, they will give you a half pint. This cairn commemorates the Seven Men of Knoydart. In 1948, 7 local men returned from war and challenged the ownership of land here, hoping to secure a future for the community. They lost their legal battle, but their stand became one of the defining episodes in Scotland's long struggle over land ownership. The next morning, I took the ferry back to Meadail and then the train from Meadail back to Glenfinnan, where I could walk back to the car.
So I was chatting to the Glenfinnan Monument Visitor Centre staff there about this rumour that the monument is not where the standard was raised. And they reckon there's a stone on this bracken hillside here. That's the viaduct behind me. And we're just kind of opposite the church and some buildings there by the road. I'm trying to have a look around myself. Apparently there is a stone which is inscribed where the standard was raised. And there's even a flag post hole, they think, in the stone where they could have put the flag in. I mean, this is the highest point on this little bracken hillside, and it would have made logical sense that they would have wanted to raise the standard in a visible spot rather than by Loch Shiel on the shore itself.